My ideas don't matter here. That's what Jake said when the client asked for my input on the presentation. The conference room smelled like stale coffee and printer ink. I could hear keyboards clicking in the adjacent offices. My manager nodded along. My colleagues looked away. I closed my laptop quietly, smoothed my navy blazer, and chose silence. No argument, no defense. I stood up and walked out into the hallway. 2 hours later, the meeting ended abruptly and my phone buzzed with an urgent text. Here's what happened next. The corporate air was stale that Tuesday morning, the kind that smells like ambition and disappointment. Jake had chosen the glass conference room for its visibility, the kind of place where people performed their importance for the entire floor to see. The long mahogany table gleamed under fluorescent lights, surrounded by leather chairs and whiteboards covered in strategy diagrams. Every seat around that table represented months of preparation. Mine apparently didn't matter. I'd worked late for 3 weeks straight, building the campaign proposal that got us this meeting. Coffee-stained notebooks filled with research, color-coded presentations, mock-ups I'd redesigned 5 times. The client, Henderson Industries, had specifically requested creative direction for their rebrand. That was my specialty, my department, my work. Growing up, we were the classic power couple everyone envied, the ambitious pair and the supportive one. Jake had the MBA and corner office dreams. I had the creative vision no one seemed to notice. He'd present ideas and get promoted. I'd generate concepts and get thanked. He said I was his secret weapon. I said I wanted my name on the work. Both meant different things to each of us. The last time I saw my value clearly was 6 months ago. I remember our apartment smelling like takeout containers and deadline stress. Jake was in Chicago closing another deal, and for once, the workspace felt mine. A junior colleague called asking for help with a pitch. Instead of Jake's usual strategy, I walked them through my process, step by step. We won the account in 2 days, the fastest close in company history. When Jake returned, he smiled like it was expected. You always know how to support the team, babe. That's why we work. That night, I learned there are 2 kinds of invisible, being overlooked and being erased. I thought about that call as I walked toward the conference room, heels clicking on polished marble. Through the glass walls, I saw them arranging materials. Jake in his charcoal suit, our manager Patricia straightening her notes, and the Henderson team reviewing folders. He looked back once, saw me approaching, and smiled the same way people smile at assistants they won't remember. Patricia intercepted me with her tablet. You're presenting the creative concepts, she asked. Yeah. Her polite smile faltered when she glanced at Jake. Actually, Jake will be handling the full presentation today. You're here for support. I laughed, waiting for her to correct herself. She didn't. Support. For the campaign I'd created from scratch. I followed her gesture toward the chair furthest from the presentation screen. From there, I could see every slide, every concept I'd developed. But there was a distance between us, professional and otherwise. I opened my laptop, the presentation file I'd perfected glowing on the screen, and stared across the table. Jake was pulling up slides, my slides, adjusting the projector. Patricia was reviewing talking points, my talking points. Around us, the Henderson team prepared to hear my ideas presented as someone else's work. I tried to blend into the background like always, but the room wasn't quiet. Phones buzzed with notifications, coffee cups clinked against saucers, small talk filled the air before the formal presentation. Every few minutes, Jake would catch my eye and nod, like I was there to cheer him on. Like my months of work were his opening act. Then the client spoke. I looked up and saw Mr. Henderson leaning forward, pen poised over his notepad. Before we begin, he said, I'd like to hear from your creative director. The concepts we reviewed were exceptional. I'm curious about the vision behind them. Jake's smile tightened. He glanced at me, then back at Henderson. Actually, I developed those concepts as part of our integrated approach. Creative and strategy working seamlessly together. Henderson frowned slightly. I thought Ms. Sarah was your creative lead on this account. For a second, the room went quiet. My throat went dry, the kind of dryness that comes from swallowing recognition you'll never receive. Behind Jake, Patricia was shuffling papers nervously. He didn't hesitate. Sarah provides valuable input, he said smoothly, but my ideas don't matter here if we're not thinking strategically first. This campaign succeeds because of the business framework I built around the creative elements. The words landed so casually I almost missed how completely they erased me. My ideas don't matter here. Like it was policy. Like I was a footnote. For a moment, I said nothing. My hands stilled on the keyboard, the presentation file still open, still mine. Henderson was looking between us, confusion clear on his face. He wanted to react, to question, to prove his point. I didn't. I just looked at Jake long enough for his confidence to flicker. You know, I said quietly, there's always been room for both our contributions. You're the one who keeps taking all the space. His jaw tightened. Sarah, please. Not everything's about credit. This is about what's best for the client. I let out a small laugh, the kind that sounds like air escaping from a puncture. You presented my work as yours. What exactly am I contributing to? For a moment, the mask slipped. I saw a flicker of something, guilt, maybe. Then he straightened, lifting his chin. You always make things personal. Maybe Patricia was right. You complicate collaborative processes. Patricia. The name hit harder than I wanted it to. I pictured all those strategy sessions where my input got filtered through Jake's voice, all those client calls where I stayed muted. I'm not complicating anything, I said. You just don't like that I see what's actually happening. He rolled his eyes. You sound defensive and unprofessional. Face it, Sarah. The client wants strategic thinking, not artistic concepts. He turned back to Henderson, dismissing me entirely. I watched him gesture toward my slides, my color schemes, my 3 weeks of research, and felt the familiar burn behind my eyes. But this time, it didn't hurt the same way. It burned cleaner. When he started the presentation, I closed my laptop quietly. The soft click echoed in the room, but no one looked. I slipped my portfolio into my bag, along with the backup files I'd brought. If they didn't want my ideas credited, fine. But I wasn't leaving them behind. Not this time. For a while, I just sat there, fingers pressed against the smooth leather of my portfolio, listening to Jake present my concepts in his confident voice. It was supposed to be a collaborative showcase, a perfect partnership. I imagined Patricia taking notes, Henderson nodding along, Jake basking in praise for work that had kept me awake for weeks, the same scene I'd watched my whole career from the sidelines. But sidelines have edges. I stood up slowly. My reflection caught in the glass wall, still composed, maybe even professional if you didn't look too closely. Inside the bag, my portfolio felt heavier than it should. Those weren't just concepts. They were proof, something that could demonstrate exactly who created what. 3 weeks earlier, I'd saved everything to my personal cloud drive. A precautionary backup turned into preparation. Every draft, every revision, every late-night email timestamp showing my creative process. Not just the final presentation, but the evolution of ideas Jake was now claiming as his own. Before leaving the conference room, I walked back to Patricia's assistant desk near the executive suite. She was distracted, coordinating lunch orders for the client meeting. I slid a USB drive into her inbox, labeled Henderson Campaign, Complete Creative Development Files, S. Martinez. Inside were months of documented work, initial brainstorms, client research, mood boards, revision history. Not accusations, just timestamps. Truth with metadata. I stepped back, checked my reflection in the hallway mirror, and straightened my blazer. My heart wasn't racing. It was steady, calm in a way that felt almost foreign. Then I turned and walked toward the elevator. The corporate afternoon hit me with a rush of recycled air. The lobby echoed with clicking heels and muted conversations, Sound I no longer needed to navigate around Jake's schedule. For the first time in months, I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel like support staff. I reached the parking garage, the echo of my footsteps sharp against concrete. No dramatic resignation, no confrontation, just the quiet closure of a car door. As I started the engine, I looked back once at the glass building, the fluorescent squares of windows, and whispered to myself, let the work speak for itself. Inside the conference room, presentation slides still glowed on the screen. A projector hummed softly. Coffee grew cold in ceramic mugs. The Henderson team leaned closer around the table, asking detailed questions about creative choices and strategic thinking. Jake gestured confidently at concepts he'd never developed, explaining inspiration he'd never had. From outside through the tall windows, the scene looked like a successful pitch, professional, collaborative, seamless. Then Patricia's phone buzzed. It happened during the Q&A session. Henderson had been asking about typography choices, color psychology, brand positioning rationale. Jake was improvising answers, using buzzwords he'd picked up from my presentations over the years. Patricia stepped out to check her messages. Her assistant had forwarded the USB contents with a note, found this in your inbox. Thought you should see the timestamps before the Henderson contract gets finalized. Her face went pale as she scrolled through file after file. Every creative brief dated weeks before Jake claimed to have developed the integrated approach. Email threads showing Sarah's late-night revisions, client research Jake had never seen, mood boards he'd never contributed to. She slipped back into the conference room just as Henderson was saying, the creative vision here is remarkable. Whoever developed these concepts really understands our brand identity. Jake smiled. I appreciate that. Strategic creativity is about seeing the bigger picture. Patricia cleared her throat. Actually, I think there's something we need to clarify about creative attribution. The room went quiet. Henderson looked up from his notes. Jake's confidence flickered. What do you mean? The creative development files show a different timeline, Patricia said carefully. Sarah Martinez appears to be the primary creative contributor on this campaign. Jake's jaw tightened. Sarah provided input, but the strategic framework has timestamps from last week, Patricia interrupted. The creative concepts are dated 3 weeks earlier. A collective pause rippled through the room. Phones stayed face down. The projector hummed louder in the silence. Henderson frowned. I'd like to review those files, he said quietly. Creative integrity is important to our partnership decisions. Jake looked toward the door where I'd been sitting. My empty chair reflected in the glass wall behind him. She's not even here to explain the context. Henderson's expression hardened. Maybe that's the problem. That was when Jake's presentation fell apart. Not loudly at first, more like confidence leaking out slowly. He stumbled through technical questions about design choices he'd never made, fumbled explanations for strategies he'd never developed. The color palette represents. He started, then stopped. Actually, I'd need to check my notes on the psychological reasoning. Patricia stepped forward. Would you like me to call Sarah back to discuss her creative process? No, Jake said quickly. That's not necessary. I can handle technical details. But Henderson was already standing, gathering his materials. I think we need to postpone this discussion until we have the actual creative lead available. Every face had turned toward Jake now. Patricia powered down the projector. A phone buzzed with what sounded like an urgent notification. Someone whispered, "This is awkward." Jake's perfect pitch was dissolving, and he couldn't hold it together anymore. He looked toward Patricia. This is a misunderstanding. Sarah and I always collaborate. Collaboration requires credit, Henderson said quietly, his voice professional but firm. I'll need to speak with Ms. Martinez directly before moving forward. He reached into his briefcase, pulled out a business card, and set it on the table. Please have her contact me. Today. Jake stared at the card like it was evidence against him. You can't just, she's not the account lead. I am. Patricia corrected quietly. I think we need to reassess team assignments. Henderson gathered his team toward the door. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. We'll be in touch once we've had proper creative consultation. The room fell into a silence so complete it amplified the air conditioning hum. Then came the sound Jake would remember, his phone buzzing with a text from our CEO requesting an immediate meeting. His voice cracked. This is Sarah's fault. She left me hanging in there. Patricia exhaled slowly. She left because you erased her contributions. There's a difference. Outside, I'd stopped at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the office, laptop open, portfolio spread across a small table. The afternoon light felt warmer than fluorescent bulbs. I couldn't hear every word from the conference room, but I heard my phone ring. Henderson Industries, the caller ID showed. The conversation was brief, professional, and validating. Ms. Martinez? We'd like to discuss moving forward with your creative vision directly. Are you available this afternoon? Inside, Jake's career trajectory shifted permanently. Patricia scheduled him for performance review. Henderson Industries requested a new account team. The creative concepts stayed with their creator, finally, properly attributed. By the time the building emptied and the cleaning crew began their evening rounds, Jake sat alone in the glass conference room. His suit, once commanding, now looked rumpled. The presentation remote had fallen beside his chair. The same hands that had dismissed my contributions now clutched his phone, scrolling through job listings. He never called me. I was already building something new. Through the coffee shop window, I watched downtown traffic blur past, professionals heading home after another corporate day. It's all about networking now, someone was saying at the next table. Did you see that presentation disaster? That guy completely froze up. I didn't feel satisfaction, just clarity. I rested my hand on my portfolio and thought about the conference room. The smell of stale coffee and ambition, the chair furthest from the presentation screen that squeaked when I shifted. How it all started with my ideas not matching. How it ended with Henderson Industries offering me a direct consulting contract. Recognition didn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it whispered, now they see your value. The phone call faded into background noise. The coffee shop went quiet again, filled with the soft sounds of productivity and respect. I opened my laptop, Henderson's project brief glowing on the screen, and began crafting something entirely mine. By the time I reached my apartment, the city was settling into evening rhythms. The elevator ride up felt lighter somehow, like I'd shed weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. My phone showed 7 missed calls from Jake, 2 from Patricia, 1 from HR. I didn't check any of them. The creative work was worth more than explanations. When I stepped into my living space, it smelled faintly of success and possibility. The city outside was transitioning to night, office buildings glowing with ambition and dreams. I hung my blazer on the back of a chair and stared at it. The navy fabric still professional, untouched by corporate politics. It looked like armor I hadn't known I was wearing. A new message appeared, Henderson contract attached. Looking forward to working with you directly, M. Henderson. That was validation. Not the kind that comes from workplace hierarchies, but the kind that comes from clients who recognize talent when they see it. I opened the contract instead of checking Jake's voicemails. A 6-month creative director role blinked back at me, complete with attribution clauses and creative control guarantees. I signed it electronically, right there at my kitchen counter. Before settling in for the evening, I stepped out onto my balcony. The city air smelled cleaner than corporate recycling. Across the downtown skyline, office lights created patterns of ambition and exhaustion. They could keep their hierarchies, their credit stealing, their versions of collaboration. I had my own now. For the first time in my career, silence didn't mean being overlooked. It meant being selective about who deserved my ideas. At my partner's presentation, my ideas didn't matter. This morning, Henderson Industries is implementing my creative vision. Same concepts, different attribution. Back then it was erasure. Now it's recognition. Sometimes the most powerful response isn't an argument. It's the sound of your own talent finding better opportunities. They thought I'd always stay, grateful for any acknowledgement. But I don't wait for permission anymore. I don't beg for credit at someone else's meeting. I build my own client relationships. If you've ever been dismissed by someone who was supposed to support you, know this. Walking away isn't giving up. It's the beginning of being valued properly. Tell me, have you ever had to leave a situation where your contributions were being erased?